And okay, let's check the sound. Hello, beautiful people. Today I am without my daughter and my assistant who's tech savvy. Well, compared to me, everyone is tech savvy. Hello. Oh my goodness, we have people waiting here. Well, hold on a second. I need to go grab my glasses. I can't see anything without them. Much, much better. Okay. Wow. We have 14 people here. You know, people, I just finished the live and during the live, we had about 3,000 people and just finished it about a couple of hours ago and it's already like 12,000 and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Granted, let's see how this is. Granted, some of them, maybe 20-25%, they're my Turkish friends who live outside Turkey, the United States, Germany, Spain, Italy, Brazil, in Russia. And then we have the other 75% who were so kind and they stayed up late. And okay, I'm kind of positioning I don't know, can you see it in the screen? I have this iPad. There are some glitches sometimes with the chats, and I'm gonna pause every now and then and take a look at the questions and your comment. And yeah, we are 25. Welcome. How is everyone doing? I'm a bit hoarse from talking. I talked straight for 1.5 hours, and it was spirited. It was it was hot. It was hot. Let me while we are warming up. Oh my goodness! Now it's 32. While we are warming up, first of all, teşekkürler. We even now have a few people from Turkey. This is going to be an English broadcast, and please stay if you can figure out what we're talking about. Then perfect. All of you, welcome here. How is the sound level, people? Is it too loud? Is it too, you know, low? There's always this 10 seconds. Hello, Robert Diggins is here. Fantastic. Okay, well, while we are warming up, 64 people are watching. While we are warming up, let's catch up. Let me give you a few updates. I assume the sound is good. My camera, I'm seeing myself not too not too crooked. Okay. All right. So for those of you who are here for the first time after a long time, because I have been publishing pretty much 90+% Turkish content here on YouTube. However, on patreon.com/Sibel Edmonds, we have the most amazing live podcast every Sunday. We have one in Turkish for an hour and a half. We have another one in English for minimum 1.5 hours. It's very interactive. I have always preached it and I'm trying to implement it and do what I preach, which is I don't want to get dependent upon the devil's playground right here. Patreon is the last place they can touch. Plus, Patreon doesn't play algorithm. If you're not a member, I invite you to join me and our amazing community. Amazing community. I'm gonna say it again. Amazing community at patreon.com/Sibel Edmonds. Those of you who are a big fan of what this channel, YouTube in general, the membership, the join button is open. And while you're all here, please don't forget, please thumb it. And there is a hype button somewhere after the live is finished and it goes to record it, and subscribe to the channel. And those of you who can, I invite you to support this channel with your membership by joining this channel. You can click there and you will see it. Okay. All right. So the updates, if you haven't been following my Patreon broadcast and podcast and all the news, whew, about 5 weeks ago, the despotic dictatorship government of Turkey under the psychopath dictator who is now at the stage 2 of Alzheimer's. So it's not actually him. He is close to death. He hasn't been doing anything. They are propping him up once in a while. Then he goes missing for a while. But they're trying to hide it from the public, and they don't let the the people there to find out about the health state of the dying. He's about 81, 82, um, um, despotic president. Anyhow, he issued his government, that's better, his government and his tribe, because his entire family is in charge, a la Taliban. And I will tell you about the Taliban practices that they have put in place, and they are getting away with it. You know why? Because this despotic Erdogan and his tribe, okay, his mafiosi tribe, every single day, if not maybe every other day, is declared President Trump, President Donald Trump's favorite leader in the whole wide world. If you don't believe me, Google it or Yahoo it or whatever search engine you use, and you will see that he's saying again and again for the past few months that his favorite, he doesn't say the dictator, leader, government in the world, okay? Not that part of the world, Middle East, that part, Asia. No, no, no. In the whole world happens to be Erdogan. So, emboldened by the support that he's been getting, they are sustaining him. Israel and the United States, actually, they are sustaining him. Don't pay attention to the news, people. That is so that he remains in power, because 99% of people are Muslim in Turkey, and his base, they believe that he, like the rest of the Arab world, that he's anti-Israel because he talks, tough on Israel. Well, he is a direct seed, okay, and the butler of Israel. And when Israel wants to make his butler, right, popular in that part of the world, in a country, they put this front that they are butting heads, because then that puppet becomes popular or remains in power in Turkey. Okay, so this despot, his tribe, they issued an arrest warrant for me in Turkey. Okay, political. I'm an agent of Fethullah Gulen. And those of you who are familiar with me, I'm the only person, the first person starting in 2004, exposing Gulen network in the United States and his work with the CIA and the ties with terrorism and drugs and etc. Because nowadays it's just like the Red Scare era during McCarthyism. You're familiar, right, people? McCarthyism. This guy has put hundreds and hundreds of journalists in jail by labeling them FETO, meaning Gulenists. No evidence has to be presented, no real court process, no due process. Anybody who criticizes him, anybody from the opposing party, anybody that he doesn't like, that tribe doesn't like, they're jailed. They're jailed with no due process. Nowadays, they are saying it's more than 500,000 people, political prisoners in Turkey, just because this despot, this mafiosi, cocaine mafia despot, Erdogan, has declared them to be FETÖ Gülenists. Then, it's very interesting, people. During this NATO summit, July 7th, July 8th, just a month ago in Turkey, in Ankara, Erdogan kept saying, we are so close with Trump. Now Trump has given me a direct line to himself, right? So I don't have to go through anyone. We can just call Trump and just go directly to him. Woohoo, woohoo, right? Do you know what he's been using the line for, the direct line? Every time he connects, his tribe with Donald Trump, they give Trump the list of people, okay, to be censured via Trump's deep state network, such as Elon Musk's X, because anytime they encounter difficulties to censor someone, block them to be seen by people in Turkey, right? First, they go to the company, Google, right? YouTube, Facebook, X, right? And if there's any difficulty, they call Trump and they're like, tell him, tell him, tell Google, you need to block this woman. Well, that's what they did with me. First, they had an emergency court order at 8:45 p.m. and they got the court order with the information office, which is the Bureau of Information Ministry, and they submitted to X. Elon Musk is like, hey, we have an agreement. So they blocked and censored me. So people in Turkey can't see any of my accounts, and I have three. Then they did the same thing 2 weeks later with YouTube. And only people with certain types of VPN or people who have put in their YouTube setting, instead of saying we are in Turkey, I'm in Turkey, they say I'm in Germany. They just pick any other country, I guess, other than Iran, and bam, that's it. Those are the only people who can see me. And that leaves 70-80% of people minimum in Turkey who can't see my videos. And despite that, woo, they are giving fingers to this despot. We had these brave people in Turkey via VPN and any other way joining. We had a live here just last Saturday. We had a live with 4,800 people, and then that reached like, I don't know, 50, 60,000, despite the ban. That was a live in Turkish. Anyhow, now 6-7 days ago, they went to Zuckerberg and they got Zuckerberg's Facebook and Instagram blocked me and several other people, not only me, okay? These are all journalists, real journalists, not their PSYOP operatives. They have so many, it's incredible. So that's the update on where I have been. Now we're going to come to the news portion of this, because this news is being censored, partially censored. They are giving the news as like a header, what has just happened in Turkey, what is happening in Turkey, and this relates to Iran, this relates to Israel, okay? This relates to northern Iraq, but they are not giving people anything that connects it directly to Iran and everything. Here is the deal. Those of you who are into international politics, those of you who have been watching geopolitics, that you have been reading up, especially in that part of the world, you know about this at least almost half a century long butting heads between Turkey, Turkish government, and these separatist terror groups, Kurdish terror groups, okay? Not all Kurdish people. There are millions and millions of good, honest, Turkish Kurdish people, Kurdish Turkish people in Turkey. I'm talking about the separatists. And you know how the how the CIA, how England, right? How Israel, they love to co-opt separatists, right? Against China, separatists, Chechens, right? Against Russia, right? The ones in Xinjiang, right? Uh, Uyghurs against China. Well, they have been playing this game, okay, in order to divide, balkanize, and have this always civil kind of a domestic terror war between the Turkish government and these separatist groups. Because you have to ask yourself, who are the people who are arming these people? I mean, they have the state of the art, the state of the art arms, right? Semi-automatics, bombs, drones, you name it, right? Where are they getting it? Where are they getting it, right? They're not getting it from Russia. They're not getting it from China. They're getting it mainly from Israel and the United States of America. This has been going on for a long time, and it's a very sensitive, rightfully so, sore issue with people in Turkey, right? Because people in Turkey, they are like the staunch believer of Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, right? Who took that crumbling Ottoman Empire that was being totally taken into chunks and pieces, right? By England, by the United States, by the French, right? And turn it into a republic, right? From that Ottoman Empire, crumbling Ottoman, sold out Ottoman Empire into the Turkish Republic, right? The Republic of Turkey. And people in Turkey, they call him the father of Turkey because he is. You know how we say the founding father for Thomas Jefferson, same thing. So what has been happening, especially with people who are a believer of the united Turkey, because Turkey has an amazing mixture of people. You know, you have people, Turkish people who have heritage from Tatars, you have Turkish people who have heritage from Bulgaria, from Greece, from, the Kurds, Kurdish, Turkish, Armenian. It's in some ways it's similar to the United States. And once upon a time, people were saying, well, Florida should be given to blah, blah, Cuba, and Texas should be half of it going to Mexico. How would Americans feel, right? It's the same kind of a thing. They want, rightfully so, a united Turkey, the Republic of Turkey. So it's a sore issue. Now, what do the powers want? The deep state wants, right? Israel governed the United States, right? It's the other way around. Israel governs the United States. They have been after balkanizing Turkey the way they balkanized the Balkans, right? They balkanized Libya, and Libya right now is fractured into two, three factions. Iraq, the same way, balkanized into northern Iraq, central Iraq, southern Iraq. It's totally that's the way. That divide and conquer, right? Take a country and chop it into pieces. Well, they have been wanting, they have been planning, they have been working on this, and that is to balkanize Turkey, because Turkey has the second largest army in the region, the second largest army. Okay, it's strong. And then look at the geostrategic position of Turkey. How to do it? Via separation, via these separatist Kurds. Okay, now we are going to get to the part that has to do with Iran. Everyone, I have been saying, talking about it, because not here. I have podcasts, I have news reports, etc. on Patreon. And since last March, I have been telling my listeners, my community members, that this is not going to be, they're going to take over Iran. There's going to be a ground invasion of Iran. I said, this is going to be at least in 3 to 5 stages, at least four stages, okay? Right now, we are on stage 3, okay? That's February 28th, the so-called negotiation, peace, things quiet down, then phase 2, then phase 3. This is phase 3. And no, they're not going to have ground invasion now for several reasons. Okay, the most basic reason, simplest one, that's like not the focus of this video, has to do with the weather. Okay, it is that part of the world. It's hell hot. Okay, that's the best way to say it. It's hell hot. And any invasion won't happen during July, August, September. I would say the earliest would be end of October, early November, because it's not conducive, especially for, the United States troops. Not really. Yeah, they have had training in the deserts, etc. But it's, remember how it was in Kuwait. Okay, those of you who watch military or are military, you know what I'm talking about. So that reason aside, the biggest, the most important reason, people, has to do with northern Iraq and the Kurds, and the corridor from northern Iraq into through northwestern Iran. The Kurdish region of Iran. Iran has their own Kurds in northwestern Iran, okay? And Iraq has their whole north portion is balkanized. The whole northern portion is governed by Israel, okay? For the people, Kurdish heritage people, the Kurdish people. And that's where they reside, these various separatist Kurdish groups, some of them Turkish Kurdish people, such as PKK, okay? Then there are Kurds in southern Turkey, big concentration. And then you have northern Syria Kurds. Now, the real plan, and that is for the real ground invasion, right? Which is not going to happen on stage 3 because this is not ready. And they've been working on it. And this is why we have this breaking news that the US media is blacking out on what really is about, okay? Now, they want, this is Israel, and Israel has been working on it since we invaded Iraq. Around 2004, 2005, Israel started establishing their radars, military radars, their intelligence stations, and actual military IDF who are based in northern Iraq, that Erbil, Kirkuk region. And think about it, right? Think about it. Supposedly, the United States left the base there, the US base in Iraq. Yet you see that Iran constantly, much more so than Kuwait and this and Bahrain and Oman, Iran is nonstop, heavily, mostly bombing northern Iraq. Because northern Iraq is where Israel, with its military, has taken over the Kurdish faction there and has established Israel 2.0. So it's not about the US base, it's about Israel and Israel's Kurdish army in northern Iraq. Okay? But they have been wanting to use all the Kurds, including PKK, which are the Kurdish people that are the separatists from Turkey in that region, and a faction of the Iranian Kurds who are in northwestern portion of Iran, because unlike the rest, the Iranian Kurds, their faction, most of them are still pro-nationalism, pro-Iran, against Israel and against all these outside interference. But there is a small faction of Iranian Kurds who would be cooperating with the rest of the outside Iran Kurdish factions, the terror factions, okay? So, why haven't they done it? Okay, the reason they haven't done it and it's not ready because of the nationalism, the national unity. Turkey has been saying, nope, that's out of question. You cannot do that because these groups that you have, Israel, right, and the US, well, PKK portion of it, which is large number, they're all armed, right? These terrorists there. They are our terrorists. They are wanted by us, right? They are anti-Turkey. And we have gotten you, the United States, right? Europe, all of you, designate them as a terrorist organization. Catch my drift? So to openly, and especially since Turkey is a NATO member, to do this, right, would be, even under the international law, people, it would be, like what they did with KLA during the Balkan Wars, to be working with a terrorist designated organization, Kurdish organization, right? So in order to get rid of it, the United States and Israel, they have been blackmailing, pressuring, okay, Tom Barrack, the US ambassador, the pedophile Epstein network ambassador in Turkey, pushing and saying, Turkey, you need to drop this label and say, no, we no longer consider PKK Kurdish terrorist faction, we no longer consider them terrorists. We are dropping that label. We are giving them all amnesty, okay? Amnesty, including those who are in jail. We're going to release them. They're their leaders. And they have promised us they're not going to arm. They're going to lay down arms. Why? Because people in Turkey, they're screaming. They're like, what the, right? Why are you doing this? Well, of course, you know, I've been telling them why they're doing this, because they are taking order from Israel and the US. And this is the start of the stage 4 as soon as it happens, right? When Turkey lifts the terror category of PKK, the label, then it's going to come off the State Department, the United States State Department, and Europe. Then they're going to be, they did that, people, they did that. Remember, with Kosovo, with KLA, they did that. They had them designated as a major terror organization. Do you remember? People, do you remember KLA? And then when it was convenient for the Balkan War to Balkanize Eastern Europe, they said, this is Clinton, so this has nothing to do with partisanship. They said, for all these years, we designate them as terrorists and mafia and heroin dealers and all that, we are lifting. So now they're going to work with us because they are no longer designated as terrorist organization. This is exactly what they are doing with Turkey and with PKK. And without sharing the details yesterday with all members of parliament in Turkey, they kept it hidden, classified kind of. They only showed it to their own group because there are opposition parties. It's a multi-party system. There are like, I don't know, 8 other parties there. And today they introduced it. This is Turkish despotic Erdogan tribe mafiosi government in the parliament and said, we're going to pass this. We're going to vote on this and pass this. And behind the scenes, they're doing everything. They're blackmailing, threatening. We're talking about death threats against some of the opposition parties, parliament members, right? Saying, you better effing vote yes for it because we are going to do it. Well, Turkey is also, this is the mafioso despotic Erdogan tribe and government, because Turkey is a narco state. Turkey is a terrorist state. ISIS's headquarters is in Turkey. Has been since 2011 when they started establishing it. Okay? And in some cases in 2012, 2013, they were using the US airbase, the United States CIA and the Turkish government, Erdogan government, to bring these recruits, jihadis they brought from Afghanistan and Libya, etc., arm them, train them, fund them, transfer them into the porous, through the porous borders of Syria, Turkey, Syria, into Syria. That's how they made Turkey, the Turkey being the headquarters for ISIS. That's how they made it happen. So they're going to vote on it, people. But they are threatening people, the opposition party parliamentary members. And once that is passed, you're going to see how quickly Europe, US, they're going to drop the terrorist label, the terrorist category of PKK. And that's when we're going to see the stage 4 towards stage 5. Because then Israel and the US, they're going to be using these Kurdish factions and a small faction, because a majority of the Kurds in Iran, they are not pro-Israel, get through that corridor of northern Iraq, southern Turkey, into Iranian, northwest Iranian borders for the ground invasion and other Israel operations. This is extremely important. This is extremely important, people. This is not just important for Turkey. This is important for Iran. This is important for people here in the United States of America, okay? This is how they are playing. But look at the information blackout here. Wow, nothing like in Turkey. Everything is blacked out. There is no functioning media, and there hasn't been. None. And the liberal Europe, they have been quiet because of the pressure by Donald Trump. This guy who is a drug dealer, mafia, cocaine mafia, heroin mafia, is all him and his family tribe, right? Erdogan. We're talking about Erdogan. Erdogan's tribe, because Erdogan is gone. Erdogan is dying. He is stage 2 Alzheimer. He has epilepsy, seizure. He has some neurological disorders on top of being bipolar. He's like gone. He can't be part of any decisions. Okay, 2, their treasury. Turkey is bankrupt currently. They had, this was 2 months ago, they had only 3 months to go. Nothing left. The treasury is empty. So that means that the lira's collapse, which is already collapsed. Lira just like has been in a free fall, right? They call it the devolution, devaluation of the Turkish lira, and a huge economic crisis because of that. That's gonna hit Turkey. So they're desperate for money. They're desperate for money. During this NATO summit on July 7th and 8th, Trump said, we give you $20 billion worth of swap credit. That will help you. We did that in the past with Argentina when Argentina was going bankrupt because Turkey is bankrupt. Turkey is going totally bankrupt. Turkey is only weeks away from being bankrupt. So they throw, we're going to give you that. We also are going to give you via NATO $7 billion out of $27 billion budget to put like this extra oil reserve and the blah, blah, and stuff. This is like all cosmetic stuff to just give a country money, okay? So they can serve your agenda. That's all it is. Everything else is just window dressing bullshit. Come on, people. We know that. I know all my people on Patreon. We are all like, woo, woo. I'm not going to say it's like preaching the choir because I'm not preaching at Patreon. I mean, we are having interactive discussion, okay? And then we kind of marvel at the state of lack of critical thinking here and everywhere else. Okay. I'm not going to say only here in the United States, but um, at least there they have an excuse. They say it's a complete blackout, censorship by Erdogan. We have no media. Here, those influencers, the ones who are backed by Elon Musk people, they are the ones who are being pushed algorithm. Whoa! Yesterday they had 3 million followers. Look at that. Tomorrow they have 9 million followers. Okay? Yeah. And I don't know how many percent of people here in the United States of America, I'm not talking about the rest of the world. Right now, let's talk about here. I don't know how many people are actually stopping and thinking about this, right? If they are so against and they're anti-establishment, right? If they are so exposing the deep state, how come the deep state is is their bloodline and the Elon Musk, and Zuckerberg, and the rest of them, they are propping and giving them algorithm while the truth tellers are being shadow banned. Ding dong, and then that goes ding dong, right? Are you thinking about that, people, or is it like what? I never heard that before. Let me think about it. Are you thinking if you haven't thought about it before? Come on. Look, the mainstream media used to be the thing way back when, right? In the new age era of AI and social media, the ones who are carrying out the deep state psyops, right? Psyops, perception managements, are who? I don't care if they're from the right or they pose as right or they pose as left. The ones with 7, 10 million. Like people think, yeah, they are people's people. They are supported by the people. Fuck no. You know that, people. You know better than that. It doesn't work that way. It has never worked that way, and it will never work that way. Ever. Ever. Come on. You see popular algorithm, run. You are not getting the whole story. They're playing you. They are playing you. They're trying to play us all. And unfortunately, yes, they are able to play a lot of people. They're not going to tell you about this. They're going to have their usual, people doing the rounds on Iran and talk about UAE, and maybe he's going to do it. Meanwhile, Trump's son-in-law gets richer. Trump's son is getting richer, and they are rigging the stock market and the oil prices. I mean, come on. The whole thing is fucking rigged, people. It's no less rigged than it was during the mainstream media right after September 11th so-called terrorist attacks, right? Back then, we didn't have the social media. We didn't. My dog is there. Cozy. Okay, so yeah, I miss Ella because she's the one who kind of looks at the stuff and checks things. So now we are just doing it directly. I better get used to it because before you know, she's gonna be out. She's gonna be, oh my goodness, she's gonna be flying away for her master's degree, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. Let's not go there. It's the sore spot. It's the sore spot. So, people, I have been receiving death threats nonstop for the past 6, 7 days. Some of them direct, some of them indirect, some of them coming from former consulate workers here, the Turkish consulates in the United States. They use things like, don't feel so safe because you're in the United States of America. As you know, the Erdogan tribe, and the government of Erdogan, they have a long arm. They have like octopus long arm. What do they think they mean? People, what do they mean? What do they mean? You're in the United States and we can kill you. Yeah, I know. Okay, tell me something I don't know. Okay? Anybody can kill me. There is not anything I can or I'm going to do because, look, I lived with this during the first 4 or 5 years of my whistleblowing, 2001, 2002, till about 2007. And then I just taught myself, I learned to not think about it and not care about it. Because if somebody wants to do something to you, if somebody wants to take you out, especially if they are professional people, there's nothing you can do. Especially when your enemies are part of the deep state and they are big. You're not going to go protect yourself by having bodyguards. I mean, it may give you a false sense of security, peace of mind, but hell no. Hell no. There are so many ways. You may be going and picking up your medication from CVS or Walgreens or wherever. They can switch your medication. Your own medication will be spiked with something that you will take, your own medicine that you picked up, and you will die, and nobody would even think of conducting, autopsy. And even if they did, there will never be a concrete proof that this happened. So there are so many ways to do it without leaving even fingerprints. To sit down and worry about, oh my God, they're going to take me out. That's bullshit. That's not going to happen. But I want my community here, I want and my community on Patreon, they know, and I have put it out there. No, I'm not thinking of committing any stupid act of whatever, suicide, take myself out. No, there are better ways to die than that. You would think I would rid of, some major pedophiles on the way there. And then we would kind of split, and some of them, those would go to the hot places. Hopefully, I will go to a nice, breezy, cool place. Anyhow, so that's for that, people. I want to see if you have any questions, and we can talk about some of the other things. There are like so many things happening. As I said, in those countries, they have the blackout and the direct, straightforward censorship, right? That's one thing. Here is like weirder because you don't have a straightforward censorship, but you have this thing called shadow ban, and it's like this whole AI and algorithm driven. That's why I love Patreon, because Jack Conte, the founder, he is anti-algorithm. He's a musician, he's an artist, and he hates all this deep state stuff. And they have been offering him tens of billions of dollars to go IPO, make Patreon public. And he's like, no, as long as I live, especially for my artist community, because many of them are musicians, etc., I want to keep this place clean outside this algorithm bullshit, AI stuff, and the deep state politics stuff. So I feel safe there. Those of you who are not part of my community, please consider subscribing at Patreon. Now, let's make this fun and chat for the final 15-20 minutes. I enjoy being with you. I'm already seeing some names without my glasses. I'm going to see you better with glasses. My community from Patreon as well, about new party. The Erdogan can beat Erdogan at the ballot. A lot of people, because, okay, this is for all my English speaking audience too, and you can read Event Horizon's question. And I see the star, blue star. Thank you so much for all your support, Event. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad you're asking the question. Let's talk about that. Okay, so people, Erdogan has been in charge, right now he's he's out. I'm not making fun of Alzheimer. I'm talking about a despotic regime. Is a regime now. It has been a regime for a while. They are faking, either using body double or the AI generated, like touched up pictures of him. Take a look at, people. I invite you to take a look at Erdogan's walking during NATO summit, and he's holding for his life, right, to this guy Rutte, NATO's head, right, Mark Rutte, and he is like barely walking, and he's going into Trump's arms and dragging himself, and you can see his eyes rolling sometimes. And this guy is gone, but because they know what's going to happen, right? Anyhow, people in Turkey, they have been screaming, they have been demanding, well, they don't have democracy. If they had democracy by now, it would have happened. It's been going on for a long time. We want elections, we want early election. With all the stuff that is happening, it calls for early election. Erdogan regime, Erdogan, the despotic mafia Erdogan regime, has clearly said that no early election anytime soon, but they would consider it for 2028 April, okay? Almost 2 years from today. You know how much happens in 2 days, people? Okay. So the struggle is happening, but people think that whether it's 6 months from now or 2 years from now, that there's going to be an election, a fair, real elections, and there's going to be a chance. Turkey is beyond that stage. Turkey is beyond that stage. I just released the news. In the past 10 years, this drug mafia terrorist, right, despot, has created this underground 20,000 plus man army. This is shadow army. This is not the military. This is a shadow, all trained, all armed, just like ISIS. And with these communication devices that he can activate, and there will be an internal civil war like you have never seen in it before. Okay? They have been preparing for all that. So Erdogan says it may 2 years from now, April 2028. Let's say if it is. With multi-party system, they had one major, like big opposition party. It was CHP, but very successfully, right? And because some of them rotten inside, Erdogan's regime people, and they have hired 7 Israeli companies. One of them is Black Cube. Black Cube has been working for Erdogan since 2022 for his regime. Okay, Black Cube. These are all Israeli companies. And they fractured CHP, the JHP party, the main opposition group. And so a small portion now is like floating out there with this sold out guy. The rest, 80%, they have gone to this new guy who's leading them because the main leader is in jail because Erdogan regime put him in prison. Erdogan's regime has been rounding up the opposition figures from the parties. These are not criminals, okay? These are not activists. These are officials. These are party MPs, mayors. If they're not from Erdogan's regime mafiosi party, he rounds them up and he puts them in jail. So the main guy who was in charge of CHP, he's been sitting in jail for over a year with some accusation and crime that they haven't had a real due process and trial. So we don't know if it's true. I don't think it's true. Because look, this is the regime who is labeling me the Fethullah Gulen FETÖ terrorist agent, okay? The guy that I exposed. I spent so much 2.5 decades fighting here in the United States, his network, 50+ billion-dollar network. If you haven't watched my charter school videos in English, please go and watch so I don't have to rehash it here. So anyhow, this since he's in jail, another charismatic guy, his name is Özgür Özel, he has taken the rest, the fractioned one, the majority now of the opposition under his wings. And they want to challenge Erdogan's regime. But again, they are right now, their state of mind is there's going to be somehow an election. That's an assumption, early election, which they're saying 2 years. B, they're under the assumption that there's going to be a fair election. Because remember, Trump even was joking publicly saying, nobody in this world knows better than Erdogan, my good friend here, how to rig an election. Please, people, this is verbatim quote, go find it. So I think it's under a lot of illusion. Other than that, to answer your question, I'm going up, I'm going up, I'm going to find Event Horizon. I haven't really researched. I don't know much about Özgür Özel, good or bad. I don't know. I don't support any party. But in the past few months, because I got dragged into all these things, if those of you who know me, for 25 years, I never gave an interview, not one in Turkish. I never made a single video or podcast in Turkish. But somehow that's another story for another time. Like 2.5, 3 months ago, I got into it. Now, part of me says, what the heck happened here? How did I end up in this kind of a crossfire thing? Okay. With all the death threats and everything. But there's a positive side. The positive side is I am now in touch with this unbelievable community of the most beautiful people from Turkey, okay, who are challenging this censorship and the threat of jail by tuning in, by supporting, by joining the conversation. I am so proud of them, and they're like they're so beautiful. Because people, if you go to YouTube and look under my other Turkish videos that I have there, just look at the comment section and click on translation so you see them in English. You will see the most like big heart people, like loving and polite and yet determined and resilient. I don't know. I've been thirsty. I've been thirsty to be amongst people like this. So that's what I'm saying. The part of it is positive. I don't want to make it sound like all complain. So again, to answer your question, I don't know. All I know is with this regime, with this mafia terrorist regime dictator, right, supported by, I know I'm going to tell you something about after I answer this question. It's almost done. Um, I don't put my hope on any kind of an early election. Even if he dies, they have already calculated with plan B, plan C, because he's not in charge. Right now, all the stuff, all the calls and shots, everything are being made by part of his family tribe, mafiosi, and like people like who used to be part of Turkish intelligence director. Now he's the foreign minister, Hakan Fidan, and of course Israel, and seven major Israeli companies, like they are just counter psyop companies such as the Black Cube. Okay, um, the person, since I have been paying attention and tuning in and listening to, watching, these either in Parliament or during some of these meetings from the opposition groups, has been one man who has been exposing Epstein's network in Turkey, which is the biggest network with the highest number of victims. 80+% of Jeffrey Epstein's children victims were from Turkey, Balkans, and Eastern Europe people. Okay, so the hub was there. Very few here. Okay, and they distributed some of these children, little boys and girls, to those psycho pedophile UAE prince and the Saudi prince and all these rich, filthy, disgusting, underwearless the sheikhs and prince over there. So including his partner Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem with the DP World. So some of these kids were being transported with these cargo ships to places like UAE, Sharjah, right, Dubai, and so yeah, there's one man that has been standing up with Epstein, with the cocaine smuggling, because it's all part of Erdogan family. They're all like Erdogan tribe, Erdogan family. Venezuela cocaine network, like Turkey line with Venezuela. And after Maduro, thanks to Jared Kushner, they got back a portion of what they lost initially after Maduro business happened. Heroin from Afghanistan, illegal weapon smuggling. How do you think they're arming ISIS all the way on the other side of the world? Turkey. It all goes through Turkey. And if you go and look at Interpol's reports, all sorts of reports from Europe, they say right now is the number one safe haven for the top mafia. These can be on illegal weapons trafficking, these can be on drugs, these can be on serial killers, because that's the safest. It used to be Dubai, now it's Turkey, thanks to the mafiosi dictator, right? Despotic Erdogan and the tribe. This reminded me of giving you, because I need to share this. It's like no wonder why Donald Trump loves this man so much, right? The parallels are uncanny. So the main players, like in terms of the mafia, drug, all the stuff, rigging, the Turkish stock market, everything, like the privatized defense company that goes, is Erdogan's son-in-law. Okay, he's a psycho mafia criminal, right? And Erdogan's son, one of his sons, Bila, right? And I'm looking here in the United States, it's Donald Trump. First, it's the psycho Jared Kushner, right? The Zionist Israeli Jared Kushner. And you have Donald Trump Jr. And speaking of that, and this had they have keeping it. They've been keeping it. All the influencers, all the bullshit people who are trying to come across as anti-establishment. Donald Trump Jr., together with Jared Kushner's business partner, with a private plane, on September 13, 2025, they made, with unannounced to the public, visit to Turkey. Okay, they landed in Istanbul. They met with Erdogan and Erdogan's son-in-law and the foreign minister for 2.5 hours. And the Turkish presidency, under the protocol, they're supposed to log in all the dignitaries, foreign meetings with foreigners. Nothing. They didn't put them in the book. However, someone leaked it to the media and to the opposition groups, and the despot mafiosi Erdogan had to come out publicly and admit, say, yes, Donald Trump Jr. and Jared Kushner's business partner came and we had a meeting. The reason we didn't log it is because this was not about politics. This had to do with money and business. Like, what the? Can we say it together? Can we say it together? He says the reason we didn't log it and went against the protocol because it was not political meeting. It had to do with money and business. The president of a country, right, Turkey, is having a meeting with the US president's son about money and business that is not official, that has nothing to do with governments and politics. It has to do with, do you know what it had to do with? This was when he was promised that now, because Erdogan was doing this direct lucrative business because Turkey is a narco state, has been for a long time, with Maduro. 80% of the cocaine going from South America has been under Albanian mafia. That's where Jared Kushner Israel partnership with Eddie Rama and Albanian mafia comes, okay? The rest, somewhere between 15 to 20%, was Maduro hated the Albanian mafia and Jared Kushner. So he made a deal with Erdogan, Turkey's president, and his tribe, mafiosi tribe, his son, his son-in-law, and all the different kind of companies they have, front companies in Turkey and outside Turkey, including in the United States. So Turkey got that 15%. Well, when Trump went and got Maduro and all that bullshit bully thing that he did, Turkey went even more destitute. That's one of the reasons the economy is suffering, because that money was a huge money for Turkish GDP. The 15 to 20% of world cocaine with direct agreement with Maduro to be exclusively done with the Turks, right? With the Erdogan's mafioso family. Okay? Got it? So when Donald Trump Jr. came with Jared Kushner's partner, they said, well, you're going to come to the White House. We'll get you invited. If you do the things Trump, they're going to ask you to do. And there were Israelis in that meeting in the White House. But so be prepared for that. You have to commit to that. And we understand this is what he was told, that you have been, your economy, you have been suffering from what we did with Venezuela. No worries. We're going to make up for it. We're going to give you some peace. You know, we give you a piece of this action, dude. How filthy is this, right? But look at the uncanny parallel. A dictator, a wannabe dictator, Trump, dictator, mafia, son-in-law, son-in-law, son. You put all these parallels and similarities between Donald Trump and this guy, and you go like, wow, no wonder why Trump loves this guy so much. So I have only been because I have been listening. But when these politicians talk, because I have to separate politics, you know, what you do for PR and everything. One man has stood up so far and hasn't let me down with everything he's been saying, everything he's been doing, and his consistency. And he's a doctor, he's a surgeon who happens to be an MP, not the party. I don't like any of the parties, including, I don't care for his party, okay? This person, Dr. Turhan Çömez. He's an MP, he's a doctor, he's a surgeon. This guy, this guy has been pushing on the release of Turkey's Epstein files. Nobody else has done it the way and as much as he has done. This guy has stood up and has dared to put out all the documentation on Erdogan and family, the mafioso family, and these largest cocaine shipments that was seized, 10 tons of cocaine next to Canary Island. The ship was Turkish-owned ship. Some of the members in the staff on the ship were Turkish people. And the company, again, is related to Erdogan and his tribe. This was the largest in one place cocaine bust in the entire world history. 10 ton in one ship coming from Brazil, passing through Canary Islands, busted there, right? Turkish. Turkish. So Turhan Çömez, Dr. Turhan Çömez, Anybody who's interested in elections and everything, he's the only one I've seen who has stood up. And you know what else? And I want to go on record. There are some good people, whether MP, whether some journalists in Turkey who have who have established contact with me. And some generals, some colonels who are now, some of them are outside Turkey, very few inside Turkey. Again, that's another thing that is positive externality because of everything that has happened in the past 2 months with this regime in Turkey. I now, in addition to the sources I had, little bit in Turkey, a lot in the US. Now I think I have sources, whether it's military sources, the highest level people, MPs, journalists, that I don't want to like, ugh. I don't think I can think of anybody who has such sources when it comes to Turkey. Okay. So anything Turkey, I am in a place where I can get information within like maybe 1 hour if something comes up because I know so many people and I know how to get in touch. And even if they didn't know, they put me in touch with people who know. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to, wow, there are some amazing number of comments here. I'm going to kind of scroll down and then see, start from the bottom. So people, if you ask questions at the beginning, all the way on the top that I need to scroll, please do the okay, now I don't know how to bring this to chat. Oh, here we go. Okay, then I will see it because otherwise I would have to scroll. Will Robert Dickens says, will the Kurdish freedom fighters affect the involvement of NATO to broaden the war on Iran? I just explained all that at the beginning. NATO doesn't even have to be directly involved. It's Israel, the United States, the Kurdish faction, northern Iraq. So NATO doesn't have to get directly involved, but some NATO countries like Turkey would. Sinem. Okay, English questions. Sorry for you never. Are you saying to me because you don't bother me at all? There are any Turks who don't know English. Okay, all right. I have to see what the question was. But don't ever feel sorry. I would love to answer your questions, or if anybody had some question for that was not in English, I can translate it to English here. The involved with Turkey, Afghanistan. Yep, they do. Any questions? Kemal Atatürk. Yes, and you know what? It's been 100 years, and Atatürk, 100 years ago, warned. I mean, so prolific, right? Warned about the kinds of things they should watch out for. Because Turkey, I always say this: Turkey is both blessed, and I say this in Turkish. It's blessed and cursed by its this geostrategic, geographic position. I mean, it's incredible. There's no other country. You can't find any other country. You know, it's Europe, but it's also Asia, right? It's look at the neighbors. It's like there's like Iran, right? Then you have Ukraine, then you have Romania, and then you have Syria, right? It's and look at the pipelines and look at all the water, right? These are Strait of Hormuz, extremely important, but look at these straits, Mediterranean straits, right? The Black Sea, Marmara Sea strait there. You know, if Turkey were to play the cards of, let's say, straits for anybody that pressuring Turkey, I mean, the Europe would just stop functioning because Turkey is in charge. So all this natural gas and oil, it's not only pipelines like all the ship, all these, I mean, Turkey's geostrategic position is gives it if it wanted to use and if it were not it was not hijacked by these mafiosi gangsters, right? It could do a lot powerful, plus it has the second largest army there in that whole part of the world, a well-equipped army. Now, the curse is because of its geostrategic situation, it's always been under attack. I mean, this was the case since the days of Constantinople 700 years ago. And Ottoman Empire, even though just like any other empire. You know, it had its rise, then it had its rapid deterioration and decline, right? But was taken chunk by chunk, Ottoman Empire, until Ataturk came and started leading the military and reestablished Turkey's independence, because their borders stretched all the way, like Lebanon, Spain, all the way to Austria. Okay, that was Ottoman Empire, like the Turkish Ottoman Empire. But the weaknesses, just like what we are experiencing, with the United States, led us to amazing downfall, to almost nothingness, until it was Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, just like the founding fathers here. They took charge, he took charge, and he warned, and he was a secularist. Because look, I mean, religious is supposed to be on its own a wonderful thing. Politics is always known to be dirty. You mix religion and politics. You make religion extremely dirty. You corrupt the religion, and the corrupted religion ends up corrupting you, the government, more. That's why always the ones with foresight always say separate the two, right? Otherwise, you have fucking Taliban. Well, that's exactly the kind of a tribal government it has become, Erdogan. Yeah, it's like parliament, but it's parliament in name only. In name only. I mean, when you can round up anybody who opposing to your vote or your ideas or criticize you and shove them in jail with no due process, what is that parliament for? He got rid of all the judges and then replaced them with his set of judges who are all part of the mafiosi tribe. Okay, so I think it has passed. I think, what we see in Albania, honestly, my personal opinion, I really thought, even as a person and as an analyst, that as we saw Albania rise, with all the crap that they are suffering in Turkey, suffering from, is 100 times more than fucking Edi Rama in Albania. And Turkey has 90 million population. And then you see still, I don't know, maybe the catalyst is not there. The catalyst is not there. But what worries me is the civil war. And what worries me is that 20,000 ISIS, like these are the bearded, their beards are like lice-ridden Sharia Taliban, like Erdogan's shadow army, not mercenary, shadow army. That That really concerns me. Okay, let's see if you had a chance to add any questions here. Okay, so I have some people here who are bringing up things. Okay, have a good show. This government destroyed. It hasn't, Muhammad, it hasn't destroyed it all. There's still under those ashes, it sits this hot, burning red fiery coal. Okay, it's not. It hasn't destroyed it completely. And with Ataturk, it almost rose from the ashes. So it's not something it hasn't done before, Turkey. And I haven't given up hope. I know there is this not little but good chance. But it's not gonna happen by this constant, even with mental state of we need to align ourselves with some sort of a boss, be it the United States, Israel, or be it Russia, or be it China. It is Turkey, with its geopolitical, geostrategic situation and how it's positioned. It could be the Switzerland connecting Middle East with the rest of the Europe, because with its army, with its geopolitical, geostrategic, geographic situation, it has so much to go that goes for it. But it's even, I mean, it's like that mental state that we need to have the savior country. We need to go under a country in order to survive. And because of that, with the political parties and the people, that is like automatically happen. Like it's almost like a Stockholm syndrome, right? It's like, can you take us under your wing? It's like, I'm so tired of all these countries coming and destroying Turkey in the name of taking Turkey under their wings. Turkey should start thinking itself as rather than a victim. It's like we we can have great relationship with everyone, do commerce, engage in commerce. What the founding fathers in the United States said, without having those kinds of nasty, dirty, subservient alliances. Robert says your English is good. CNAM, I'm gonna see what CNAM is asking. Okay. Question. I wonder what will Russia's attitude for attempting to establish a so-called Kurdistan in the future by the end of this? Oh, that's a great question because we are all wondering why Russia and China. Well, their their behavior, their modus operandi is different. They are not loud as the United States, and it's been awfully quiet. Well, Russia is bogged down with Ukraine, but Russia also sees, think of it like a peripheral vision, what Turkey is doing, like this two-faced thing. That is Erdogan, the government there, right? Turkey is supplying Ukraine with a lot of weapons. And once in a while, when the Turkish ships gets on, in the middle of a crossfire and is hit, they're like, "Oh, it was a ship that was carrying grain." And then you kind of hear quietly Russia saying, "No, it was filled with drones that Erdogan was sending Ukraine, and it was not hit international." But don't give me that bullshit that it was grain. So, and then the promises Erdogan's government made to NATO during the NATO summit just a month ago, July 7th, July 8th. So, Russia is holding its own, and Russia doesn't have much influence left in northern Iraq. It's been Israel. It was US and Israel, with US pulling out. It's now all Israel and the northern Iraq Kurds. Now, same thing with Syria. With Syria, like Wagner Group had some sort of a presence, but after Assad left, Russia has been kind of hands off with Syria too. Believe me or not, right now they are doing a lot of headbutting with Turkey and Israel and Turkey, they are aligned. Like in Libya, Wagner still has a major presence in Libya, right? Northern Africa. But Turkey is actually operating together and doing the dirty work for Israel, and Israel has their operatives there. Somalia, I mean, Africa has been where both China and Russia lately have been placing a lot of their bets. It's a different question with Iran. Now, Iran is a different question. Of course, Iranians know what's happening with northern Iraq. Thus, we see all these targeting of northern Iraq almost on daily basis. Iranians, they know what's happening. Russia, rightfully so, is supplying Iran with intelligence, real-time intelligence. We are told that China is doing the same thing. I don't know much about that because my focus is mostly on this part of the map for Iran and stuff. So what will Russia do other than providing intelligence and behind the scenes support to Iran? I don't know if Russia is going to step in because Turkey is a NATO country, okay? So that's a major deal. On the other hand, Russia has a major trigger point of Turkey under its index finger, and that is Turkey doesn't have its own energy. Turkey doesn't have natural gas. Turkey doesn't have any oil, and the highest percentage of imports for cheap, like affordable natural gas and um, oil and petroleum products are coming from Russia. So it's because of that this S-400 issue has been sticky because the agreement that Turkey signed with Russia, it was not only here's the money, we get that. They had to sign hundreds of pages of contract, and the contract dictates that even if Turkey wants to sell it, they cannot sell it without Russia's approval. And it's only Russia that can come and transfer these weapons if it approves it to another country. So it's not like Turkey says, "Oh, we are talking of selling these, getting rid of S-400 so that we can get F-35 from the United States because that's one of the conditions. You need to get rid of the S-400." Well, the hundreds of pages of Turkey signed and committed to with Russia says only Russia is in charge of them, meaning Turkey cannot move them even 2 inches on the ground in Turkey without Russia. So it's very sticky. It's very sticky. Uh, Russia can actually play soft pressure that can go a long way. Let me put it this way: economically, because the export and import is huge between Turkey and Russia. And I mean, the same thing goes for Europe. They can get crippled. And Russia, you think Russia is not aware of that power? And that's the power of owning the energy supplies, natural gas and oil. And the cost of anything being exported, let's say from the United States to that part of the world, triples the cost for the people of those European nations. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. People, aren't you impressed? All these people are asking good questions and questions, and it's in English, are coming from our friends from Turkey. Yeah, Sinem, unfortunately, that has become the case with so many of these countries that I call them the butler nations, you know? It's like, who's going to pay? But it has been nothing but money. It's like Venezuela, it's like, cocaine, money. ISIS, money. Turkey is getting paid and got paid a lot. You think they don't get reimbursed by the CIA and Mossad, Israel and the USA? It's Operation Gladio B. Go from Al Qaeda to ISIS, and then you get money. Then you get a cut. They get a cut. They get a cut from weapons that are illegally shipped from point A to point C, with Turkey sitting in as point B in the middle. We take a cut, just like mafia. In Turkey we say eşkıya, and then it just becomes top to bottom. The corruption and this money-driven everything is for sale, has gotten so ingrained that is moving from top to bottom. It's almost affecting the culture and the system and the people, that is just so disturbing. And 2 years from now, no, Turkey cannot wait 2 years for some allowed elections, assuming it's going to be a fair elections. That would be a major mistake. That would be a major mistake. Not the biggest fan of him, but Özel's Yeni Party program is actually good at. I hope so. I hope so, Jada, because I always admit that I am not very savvy and extremely informed with some of these internal particles of Turkish politics and the political parties. I really am not, like, I don't know 90% of the people. Like, people, they say, "Do you know this person?" I'm like, "No, I've never heard of him." I can't, because mine is so macro. The geopolitical stuff, Turkey and Israel, Turkey and the United States, Turkey and Iraq, Turkey and Iran, Turkey and Russia, right? And the top tier, meaning the mafiosi despotic regimes family and the Hakan Fidan and the cabinets, yes. But that's where it stops. I'm not familiar with any of these political parties or their inner workings. I hope so. And the second reason I try to, as much as possible, to kind of stay outside of it is I don't want anything to be colored, right? When I provide, especially during this highly tense climate, when I'm wanted, I'm getting the death threats and all the stuff. And I don't want to, I don't want any of my analysis to be colored by party affiliation, or because I start developing too much closeness to, the internal politics. I feel like I'm going to be more useful to Turkey, Turkish people, not the mafiosi government, by kind of giving them the angles and the maybe widened angles from the outside, from here, and with information that is currently totally blocked in Turkey. I don't have much use, because almost everybody who's posting comments knows, like, I don't know, 10,000 times more than I do know. So actually, I can learn all from you about particular political party people. But then it kind of gets what I call dizzyfying. Woo! Because there are so many parties, there are so many names floating. I was mentioning in my other program that I tuned in to this one person who's now outside Turkey, Sedat Peker. And I went through 6, 7 of those YouTubes because I was trying to educate myself so I could provide an educated answer response to my Turkish friends, Turkish community audience. And I mean, 90% of the names, like he was talking about some businessmen and everything, it's like, I don't know. Then after a while, they're like churning inside my head and I'm dizzy and I'm like, so many names. I've never heard of these names because it gets into the details. And for that, I'm not the right person because, and I don't want to get, because I'm still spending a lot of times on Iran because that's the hot topics. Robert is here saying, are there any independent candidates in Turkey? Ah, that's a great question. Do you know that I don't know? I think our Turkish friends here, I think you have to establish a party. I'm not sure. I think our people from Turkey can answer this better. You know, independent, like, I don't know, was even Ron Paul didn't run independent. We need to boycott all parties. Yeah, Robert, you see that, right? It's going to be Joe Kent and the Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Grin and what is the other one? Oh yeah, Thomas Massey. And Robert, you know, I predicted that a year ago. I said these people, and I named them. I said they're going to get a political party. They're going to call it independent. Independent, my ASS right here. Independent is my ASS big time because there ain't nothing independent about any of these mother effers. Could they use migrants in Turkey to create chaos and deploy shadow army there? I mean, Mustafa, I think that's wow, that's very plausible because to trigger that, to use both like the police force, but also trigger to have this chaos, this synthetically created chaos, that would be one of several ways that they can do that, right? That can be one of several ways, but it makes sense. They can do that. They can do something and they can say, oh, these were the CHP or Yeni Party opposition supporting groups. They engaged in this terrorism, use that as an excuse to shut down party. It has gotten to a point that right now, that mafia tribe can do anything and everything with this impunity. Like, I can get away with anything. There's nothing that can stop me. And he has spent almost 2 decades positioning this tribe in this at this level. So that's very plausible. It can be absolutely the case. They can do something, put it on Iran in order to get directly, and this time, you know. But right now, the most important thing is this vote on PKK that is coming up, that nobody, not a single person in Turkey should allow or tolerate. That shouldn't even come for a vote. It should be written up. It should look so obvious that they wouldn't even dare bringing it up. That is like right now what we call here in English the imminent danger. The imminent danger for Turkey, with the alarm bell, is what they are doing. Because with this, if they succeed and do it, that then the domino is going to fall. And that's when all of you, all of us here, won't even look at the word election or even the E of election. That can't happen. That cannot happen. Yeah, it's very plausible. Well, Jadu Ordu, it's so similar here in the United States. At its like face, like outside, it may look kind of more sophisticated and thing. But I tell you what, here I want my American friends, communities, talk about the lobby, the tens of millions of dollars that openly go to the elected politicians here, the influence of Israel on the elected representatives of the people in the United States of America. The thing is, I mean, I guess each country is busy like dealing with their own stuff. And it kind of feels like, wow, look at the level of corruption. But it is so filthy in the United States. And I want here Americans to step in and tell our friends how filthy They don't do anything to represent Americans in any way. That is like 90+% of the people. And now the corruption is so right in your face and it's so open. They don't even bother hiding because, as I said, it runs from top to bottom. When you have a mafia like, right? That criminalish, bullish, disgusting orange man, right? And his cronies, right? His son-in-law, his son, they're all filling their pockets and they are staring people in the eye saying, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Then you have a Congress that has been neutered, has been 100% neutered since 9/11. And that was one of the objectives of 9/11. It's been neutered. It doesn't matter. They're all mother effers, every single one of them. I have been calling them the whorehouse, and the Sin City not being Las Vegas. The Sin City is Washington D.C. So the amounts are much bigger. Trust me, in the U.S., that's the only difference. They deal in bigger money. They're disgusting here. Look, 165 children that the military here went and they knew they were hitting. They murdered, okay? Hear like a peep from Congress. They are despicable. I hate them. I loathe them. I don't vote. Look, I'm here. I don't vote because there's no one to vote for. I look, I study. I'm like, even relatively speaking, even if they are semi clean, right? I'm not looking for perfection, semi clean, right? Not like so pedophile, swampy, disgusting. I can't find any. Maybe in some local elections, not the big elections like the US Congress and Senate, there are none because they will be eliminated immediately. So they won't be the candidates. It always boils down to mother effer, okay? Right? Right? This mother effer, that mother effer, equally mother effer, not much difference. So it's like you can just toss a coin and throw a vote. I mean, let the people here tell you how despicable it is here. Okay. All right. Okay. So as we are wrapping up, I have tied it here for 1.5 hour. We have 45 people watching. I don't want to miss an important question. If there's an important question that you really, really think I should answer, please write it again because I will see it at the end. Okay, right now, most influence comes from right-wing nationalist party. Atatürk party could be considered slight left-leaning. Yeah, that's like a. I think that's a good characterization. I agree with that. That they're slightly left-leaning, nationalistic. Hopefully in action, because I have to also make it clear here that this decline we are seeing in Turkey, it's been going on for several decades. Okay, because remember, the files that I dealt with and blew the whistle started in 1996 and it stretched to 2002. In fact, in my lifetime, just slightly, maybe somewhat with edge of it, I don't remember having any clean, decent, like real nationalist party. It's been all NATO. I mean, the coup in 1981, that was like the USA NATO. So it's almost like Turkey has been under occupation nonstop. It's been an occupied country, okay? And I'm not saying it's been an occupied country. And with the fall of the Soviet Union, the one major way for Turkey to rid itself from parts of this quickly is to get rid of this shit NATO. It's irrelevant anyhow. It's irrelevant. NATO has been irrelevant. I would get rid of NATO. Turkey doesn't need NATO. Turkey has the second largest army over there. NATO needs Turkey, but Turkey doesn't need NATO. I think that's the difference. Okay. All right. Did I miss anything important? Because I don't want anyone to be. Oh my goodness, Alara is here. Özel has his own role in the corruption in Atatürk's party. This party program he announced is the known party program which trying to get treatment. Alara, I think you have a point there, okay? You have a point there because we can't forget the past. I'm not talking about 100 years ago history. But that has been floated a lot from some of the main opposition party people, and that's correct. That's correct. And there were people during my previous live, they said, no, they oppose it. They say they won't sign it. Now you have to go read in between the words, in between the lines. They said there are certain things that they don't agree in it, and until they get more explanation and details, they won't sign it. They didn't say this bullshit, we're not going to sign it. That was only, I heard one man, not his party, not E-Party, to say it that way. But they kind of, you know how the politicians talk, they put that twist, that condition there. Yeah, but not at its form. There are some questionable stuff. No, the whole thing needs to be wiped out, gone, totally gone, totally gone. Okay, all right. Okay, well, all right. This was good. First of all, I tell you what, okay? There are some people, my Turkish friends, who say my Turkish, because my Turkish, I can pass any exam and get 100, like as a linguist, all that. But conversational is a different thing, especially when it comes to specific types of categories of topics, geopolitics, politics. Well, so rusty. So the fluency of things flowing and pouring out is not the same as when I'm talking in English. And you have to consider, okay? I lived in Turkey about 9 years of my life. I lived in Iran for 5.5, 6 years. I lived in Azerbaijan, Baku for 2.5 years, right? I have lived in the United States for 39 years. Next July, July 18, 2027, is going to be 40 years since I've lived here, right? And my husband was born and raised here and he only spoke English. And then, all the universities and the degrees, everything has been in English. Everything I have done career-wise. So that's my primary language. That's the language now. It's not my mother tongue, but it's the language where I flow and everything comes fluid. I don't have to keep doing and try to think terminology. Like, okay, I gave an example last time, cognitive dissonance. What is the equivalent of cognitive dissonance in Turkish? So I don't know. If you don't know Turkish and if you watch me, you will see I don't flow. But I have gotten a little bit better, relatively speaking, because I've been doing it so much in the past 2 months, but still is over my head to simultaneously, as I'm thinking and talking, grab the terminology, especially the terminology that relates to politics and geopolitics, a lot of idioms, right? Things like that. So makes my Turkish a bit more formal. Like, and they say like it's weird because everybody in Turkey, you can tell where they are from, if they're from southeast or they're from Black Sea area. Mine doesn't even have that. It's like this Shiveles kind of a Turkish. But what I'm trying to say is when I'm doing, okay, this is just for interest, people who want to just chat. So we can just be casual and chat. It's been 1.5 hours. I know. But you can tell. You can just watch and you can tell. 1 hour when I'm doing in Turkish, afterwards, like my brain is so fried because I'm more tense. It's tense and it's much more exhausting because it's like that little engine in your brain is like, oh, come on, think of the word, right? It's on the tip of my tongue, that feeling. And I'm doing it and if you're talking and chatting in English, I can do this for like a telethon, marathon, whatever you want to call it. I can, if I have a charger attached right now, I don't have a charger attached. I can go on like a thing. What is it in Congress? Now I'm getting stuck there. I can go for like 8, 10 hours, and I won't feel like this exhaustion of my brain can't come up with the words. But 1.5 hour in Turkish, it's like, oh my god, I'm so tired. My brain is so fried because I have to push it. It's like, go brain, go, go. Okay, linguistically, I do speak 4 or 5 languages, but trust me, one language becomes your primary language. You can pass a test and be equally qualified, but in these types of communication, like right now, I don't have notes. I don't ever use teleprompter, right? To flow and simultaneously think and talk. Only one. I can only do it in one. Only one. Zeynep, merhaba. Good to have you here. My Turkish is far from perfect. When I'm reading, I don't have any difficulties. I can choop choop choop, not slower than less English. I can read. That's fine. Oh, another interesting things with language, right? When I was what I was doing with the FBI or later with my consulting work, translating from Turkish to English is boom, 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 right? I can do it simultaneous, right? Translation, but one way. Turkish to English, boom, boom, boom. But English to Turkish, it goes, and I wouldn't be able to do it simultaneous fast like that. I would be doing that. There would be a gap. There would be this time lapse coming because I have to turn it, translate it in my head, then verbalize it. But if I'm doing it from Turkish to English, it's like rip, that goes like so fast. That's really interesting. Like these are the things that are just I'm paying attention since I started doing this Turkish thing. It's like, yeah, like they tell you, you know which language is your primary language when you start only dreaming in that language. Like 99.9% of the time you dream in that language. Well, mine occurred in about 1996. Like I got married in 1991. And I came to the United States in 1987. 1996, 1997 was when that switch occurred. And I started dreaming mostly in English. And a few years after that, it was like all my dreams, even if I'm in Turkey, and I'm with Turkish people in my dream, let's say with my grandmother and everything, somehow the words are in English. You know what I'm saying? That's weird how your mind works. I don't know, but people who have been outside Turkey, but then a lot of people they're outside Turkey, but let's say their partner, their husband, their wives, or their son, the ones they are living with, they are from Turkey, right? It's not the same when that happens, right? Because at home, I know I have had friends here, they spoke only in Turkish. They with their kids, they spoke only Turkish, right? It was for their work. When they were out with the neighbors, they would be talking English. So they continued that dual thing. In my case, it didn't happen because my husband was, born and raised here. So it was all in English. Then it we basically continued with my daughter. And you're gonna ask and say, who cares? Okay, wrap it up. Are you gonna say wrap it up? Come on, tell me to wrap it up. It's 9:30 p.m. CHP'li they all are. I mean, honestly, because we had this situation during Bush administration right after 9/11, people, and I was like, anything is better than this shit. Remember Darth Vader, Dick Cheney, George W. Bush? Oh my God. It was so horrific that I thought nobody could be as worse. I'm like, it's not possible. Like right now, I'm saying nobody can be as bad as this despicable people, the mafiosa, terrorist, despicable Erdogan and tribe. But in Turkey, we have a saying, beterin beteri vardır. Actually, there is a worst of the worst, right? I don't know. It doesn't have direct translation. So it's like after this Dick Cheney Bush stuff, and thinking, wow, at least Obama sounded eloquent, right? Let's say Obama would be equivalent more like a CHP thing, very educated, eloquent, like a really, you know, more like liberal academic background, all those stuff. And I didn't think he was perfect. No, 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 no. But I thought, nah, it's better than that. Honestly, Obama ended up being much worse than George W. Bush for whistleblowers, for wars, expanding it, keeping us in Afghanistan, but expanding it into Libya, Syria, all the bullshit together with Soros, with the Arabs, fake spring, and the beginning of even Ukraine setting it up. It was Obama, okay? It was Obama. So that I don't know. I'm getting older, and with that coming certain experiences. I don't know. I just look and I'm like bullshit. And just like Robert, I'm like, yeah, independent party, but they end up quickly co-opting that too. You get these motherfuckers, Tucker Carlson and Thomas Massey. I dug him. I really dug up on him. Filth. Okay, Carlson is filth. MJT, semi-filled, not totally filled. Joe Can is a fake. I'm like, but because 1 year ago when nobody was saying any of this, and people thought my Sibel is going off the rail. No, I said, I'm looking as an analyst. They see that people are so disgusted with both parties, they being the deep state. Therefore, they're going to co-opt it by cooking up an independent party, right? To say, okay, now you know both of them are shit. Why don't you try this? And that's going to be equal shitty because it's their shit. And they're going to shove it down our throat as independent. Not an independent party. Exactly. Small I. Yeah. That would be the day. Maybe for our children or grandchildren, Robert, do you think it's going to happen during our time? It's a gift if you have it. Okay, well, yeah, no more parties. I think we are entering a totally different era because I think everything is going to be relevant. NATO, the current economic system, dollar, with the AI entering this AI era. Yeah, I know it's a balloon with the stock market and everything. The whole paradigm is going to be so quickly changing, and the shift and what we're going to enter is not going to resemble anything we have ever known. I mean, it's the start of it. Even with some of the bewildering things, the reason people are so zombified because it's like a shock, right? It's like a shock. It's a sensory shock. It's an emotional shock. It's like, what the fuck? Are we in the United States of America? You get these stuff with ICE. I mean, you're looking at the lack of due process here in so many ways, and the criminal gangs in so many states. And everybody knows about my experience, even direct with what is called the healthcare, a complete broken, the most despicable system, the big pharma. And it's like, okay, it's already so much that that's why people resort to maybe subconsciously automatically into this cognitive dissonance mode, because you can't even have regular intake of it. It's like we are assaulted, all our senses, all our intellect, all our emotions simultaneously, vastly different than anything we have had, at least in the modern history. And I believe, this is me personally, that this is just the beginning. And this is not only Turkey. If you talk to people from Turkey, for those of us like, who are in tune with politics and this, it's not even recognizable. This is not the United States of America. It has been taken over by Israel. Then you have these technocrats, and it's it has it doesn't have any resemblance to the country that I came here. Like, I came to 1987, and I had until 9/11. 9/11 was a catalyst, but then, you know, starting with COVID and the AI 2020, it's like so much, so much, so much, so much bigger, the shift. And the dollar, they're talking about the digital wallet, like it's a done deal. It's here. And how we are all digitally controlled in every single way imaginable. So I just like, all deals are off. Anything we thought, any kind of a thing we considered as a logical or a logical expectation, all deals are off. That's my 2 cents. I just don't know what we are leaving behind for our children, like for my daughter and for Robert's children. Yeah, it is. Oh, well said, Robert. Full spectrum dominance. And it is full spectrum. It's like a 100% full spectrum. God, I wish I was born in 1930s and I would have been gone by 2020. Honestly, people currently facing death threats according to recent people, leading many Turks feel they are being unfairly labeled as racist. I know it's you know it's true, but I think same thing. It has become another global trend of like putting that label and interpreting everything that way, right? Like, I'm still so angry. I'm most angry at the United States. I have been in the past, whatever, few years. And mainly, like in the past 4 or 5 years, like focus, like, because I'm seeing like what they're causing. Forget about the stuff, my personal stuff, but just with the school shooting and the apathetic position of most Americans, not all, but most, majority. That's like, wow, wow, wow. Like, even people in Sweden, They were all out there with respect, demonstrating, and you could feel the sympathy that they were trying to express as the people. And this is Northern Europe, Sweden. And they didn't cause it. And then I'm looking at here, I'm like, same thing that happens with Palestinian kids, right? And is it because these kids were in Iran? Is it because they were Muslims, the kids? Is it because their kids were like olive skin? Like sometimes it makes you wonder. It's like, because would it be the same kind of reaction? I mean, can you imagine? I'm not you, because people here, I'm preaching to the choir, but oh my God, had any country intentionally or by mistake bombed the school, forget about 165, let's say they killed 50 children, many of them blonde, blue eyes, American, they would be held to pay. Hell to pay. We would go and invade 30 countries. And we wouldn't drop it every single day. It would be in our newspapers and our radio, in our TV, and all that. And just like, what is this detachment? Because it really hits my heart, really destroys my emotions, my psyche. I get filled with so much pain, whether those kids were in the United States, or they were in Yemen, or they were in India, or they were in Turkey. These are innocent children and civilians, and they were killed for nothing by some bullies, by some despicable country under Zionist, genocidal, despicable people doing this. It would tear me apart no matter where it is. But why don't I see that? Why people don't feel responsible here in the United States of America? I mean, I think the level of apathy here, especially, has reached a different level. I don't think a level seen before. I see this huge difference between the people in the United States of America, let's say in 2002, 2003, when I was marching with them against war against Iraq, right? In Washington, D.C., 100, 200,000 of us marched. But that camaraderie, that solidarity, and then seeing how anti-war they felt, right? The feeling they felt, that anti-war. I don't see that. I mean, it's like it just died with our generation. It it's like it has been replaced with numbness, indifference, or saying, fuck it, nothing makes a difference. No matter what we do, like that learned helplessness, like naturally. So like sometimes I feel that way. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. I just got it off my chest. It helps a little bit. It makes me feel lighter. Okay. Yeah, it's since 9/11. It just they have done it, and they have so done it to our psyche and to that spirit. That anti-war movement is 100% dead. Are there some anti-war people now in the United States of America, like me, like Robert, like George Sukato, like my Patreon friends, Warren? We're all anti-war, but it's a 380 million population. I don't know if we would make it to even 500,000, honestly. I don't think even we would make it to 500,000. You know, not saying like in wars, a lot of say, oh yeah, I am always pro peace. Peace, dude. Peace. No, I'm talking about anti-war, like with action, with conviction, anti-war, where you feel it deep in your heart that your stand is anti-war, especially when it's your government, when it's our government that is inflicting so much destruction and death. And you know what? We all have blood with our tax money. So we are culprits in it. We bear responsibility in it. And I truly feel it. And it pains me. And it pains me physically. It pains me emotionally. It pains me mentally. It pains me. That kind of anti-war sentiment that I'm talking about, that translates. Would we find, you think, 300,000? I would feel so good if I were to know that we still have got that really to the core, down to the core anti-war movement. You can do a lot with 300,000 people. You can do so much. You can do even a lot with 100,000 people. Do we have that much? Do you think we do, Robert? I don't know. I don't see it. And that's the part that really hurts me the most. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really have to say, and the thing is, this is shared by so many Americans because now they go overseas and they have to say they are Canadians or from somewhere else. Because it's not only, oh, they are fearing for their safety, which they should, just as Israelis do. That's what happens when you're known murderer, an empire of death, the satanic pedophilic Epstein coalition empire of that for the rest of the world, the declining, dying empire of that. But I also see and notice this shame, like, people are, I'm not talking about these rednecks, MAGA, they never set foot outside the US. Okay? They don't even know where these countries are. I mean, come on. You know that. I know that. I'm not overgeneralizing, I'm saying majority. Okay? So, yeah, there's maybe two people who know where the country. I'm talking about like people who travel, they go out and they're ashamed. It's like there's like this shame because you have seen all the demonstrations in Spain, in Italy against Israel. Who enables Israel? The United States of America. You can't hate one without another. Join in the hip. Partner in crime, satanic, pedophilic, Epstein, Israeli American. There you go. Symbolizes right there for us, right? And that comes with that shame, that feeling like, where are you from? You're checking in a hotel, especially in there, they're not all chain. You go like, oh, I'm from the USA. Oh, okay. Let's give them the room with the fucking sewage leakage. Let's spit at that water we put in front of their on their nightstand. No, 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 I'm not exaggerating. It's real. It's real. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I think people should walk in with disclaimers if they truly believe in it. I'm an American, I'm ashamed of it. I totally not support these despicable acts. I really apologize to humanity on behalf of the rest of the American. So that maybe they won't spit into your, food when they come and bring it because they do, trust me. I was in Greece, they do. Not to be. I am such a mix. But what I'm saying is, come on, people, we all know here there is a shame. That shame is real. That shame is well deserved. But it should not just limit itself with just being ashamed. We're going to do something and change it. We want to be proud again. We want to feel proud. Well, it's up to us because of this hands off thing of they're doing it to us, they're fucking us, they're using our money, killing babies, raping babies, trafficking babies. They go and take Maduro so they can add to the cocaine empire of Jared Kushner. Oh, yeah, they're all evil. Ah, yeah, well, I'm American. I know all this is despicable, but there's nothing I can do. Well, that won't cut it. I'm sorry. I just, that doesn't cut it. I'm sorry. Because you're still paying tax. So it's like aiding and abetting the evil empire, killing babies, raping babies, trafficking babies. So culprit in it, whether you like it or not, unless you start doing something that makes it clear that you stand against it and you want to change it. And as Robert said, how are we going to change it? It ain't going to happen with voting. It's the answer doesn't lie with some group called themselves Democrats. Hello, Obama. Hello, Biden time. Kamala Harris. It ain't gonna solve itself with Republicans, and it's certainly not gonna solve, and it's not gonna get better with a group of deep state motherfucker calling themselves independent, governed, ruled by the technocrats like Elon Musk. Same shit, actually stinker, more dangerous. So that's my 2 cents. And with that, I am going to lose my voice. I want to thank you all. I don't know. It's different. I haven't been doing English. Those of you who watch this later, or even those of you who didn't have a chance, I really, really would appreciate if you post a comment once this is up there recorded. Let me know. What kind of videos would you like to have that you would say, do more of this in English because we are interested? Even better, say F you to all of these deep state operators, the mosques and the like, and where we are right now. Come on to Patreon, become a member, join Join us during our live Sundays because our live Sundays, people, are lively, are really lively. I'm always looking forward to it. It's not a video, it's podcast, but I can then focus, right? Don't even have to put it on, take it off, put it on, take it off my glasses. Read your question, get your comments. We laugh together, we cry together, we talk about serious, really important news and analysis. And then from there, we go wherever we want. We can act spontaneous. Love you all. I love you all. I mean it. I don't say it like an ending thing, But the people that I connect, especially after being recluse for so many years, and this is, I know you're going to stay virtual, but I feel it. As somehow this energy, and the one life before, the energy, I don't know how you describe it. Hippy dippy sounds hippy dippy. I don't know. If it does, it does. I can't do anything because it feels that way. Like, okay, I'm receiving this energy. Now, some of you are in Australia, some of you are in Minneapolis, some of you in China. I don't know. You're all over the world. Yet, I can't I can feel. You know what I mean? Do you feel it? I feel it. I really feel it. And I feel like how we are also connected because we belong to our own maybe hemisphere or group or category. And we know and we get it. And I get it from you, most of you. And I hope you get it because that tells us that we are not alone. It's not that we have gone totally gaga, cuckoo. It's like, how we say, is that me? Because a lot of people, they are saying, fuck it. Why do you pay attention? Just enjoy life. Life is short. Don't worry. It is what it is. No, there are those of us who won't and who can't do that. Okay. And we are not in this category or butting head with a different party because it's all about party. We are not that either. We have our own category. I haven't come up with a name. Maybe you'll help me find a name for this energy and this group scattered around the world who connects in this way. Put that in your comments. Trust me, I read every single comment. Much love, much respect to all of you. And we'll connect soon again. Losing my voice. Bye, everyone.